Now that the dust has settled and the panic subsided, you know what? It's time. I think it's time to circle back to some of the turbocharged growth stories, like the cloud plays. But what you do with the worst houses in the best neighborhood is really the question. In other words, what about the cloud stocks that haven't performed well, at least over the past year? Do you leave them alone or do you give them a closer look? Take Talend. It's a French data integration software play. Well, we've been talking about the white-hot big data space all week, but not all of these stocks are on fire. After roaring higher for most of 2018, Talend peaked at $73 last September, and it's been all downhill ever since. The company issued some lackluster guidance last November, and the stock got crushed. Spent some time in the penalty box, but just when it looked like it was getting its groove back, Talend rolled over again in June and July. However, 2 weeks ago, the company reported a much better than expected quarter, a substantial top and bottom line beat that sent the stock surging nearly 19% in a single day. So is it time to give this one another chance? Let's check in with Mike Tuchen. He's the CEO of Talend to learn more about how his company's doing and where it's headed. Mr. Tuchen, welcome back to Mad Money.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so Mike, we've been profiling a lot of the companies that are doing things that make it so the cloud's more useful and how to be able to beat some other guys to the cloud and do it better. And I thought that because you haven't been on in a year, maybe you first tell our viewers where you are and what differentiates you from a lot of the other companies we've been talking about, because we talk about the cloud all the time.
You bet. So the problem we solve is we help companies take advantage of their data. You're talking to a whole bunch of companies in different parts of the cloud world. What we do is we help companies take data that lives in all kinds of different places. It's all different formats, all different systems. It's all inconsistent. It's all dirty and messy. And we bring it together, clean it up, and make it so they can actually start betting their business on it. It's that first mile in the data journey. That's the problem that we solve.
Okay, so let's say I have a franchise at Domino's. I've worked really hard. I was a delivery person. I saved up, and then I got my own store. I want to do a good job. You are a vendor for Domino's. You do great job for Domino's. What can I learn from what you do that makes me into a better franchisee?
So what Domino's does is they look at all of the franchisee performance and what are the things that drive better margins for each one of their franchisees. And they share that information back and say, here are the different marketing campaigns that are going to be most effective. Here are the customers that you should target. Here's how you should go about driving that extra pizza. And that really is for them. They consider themselves a data company that happens to sell pizza.
Well, that's interesting because, right now they're kind of in a cross current because these delivery companies have gone up against them, principally through, say, Pizza Hut and others. So would they be able to glean data which would explain how they can beat the other guy?
It's right now, the delivery battle that you're talking about is absolutely a head-to-head battle with a number of different players. So what each of these players is doing is saying, how can I do a better job of identifying who's likely to buy a food tonight, and how can we serve that need, get that offer in front of them, and make it easy for them to purchase? So we're a core part of that system inside of Domino, and that absolutely is a data battle that's going on between all the different delivery players.
Wow, that is a great differential because you no longer can differentiate just by the fact that Domino's delivers and the other guys don't because of the DoorDashes of the world. They need that kind of thing. Now, you have had what is kind of an uneven series of numbers, but you're also making a difficult transition. And once you get finished that transition, I think your stock's going to fly. So why don't you tell people what's going on now and what will be like a year from now? Because we saw this, for instance, with Adobe, and we picked up 200 points by understanding the transition.
Nice. So that's exactly what's going on. We started out as a premise company, and one of the big waves of growth for us was working with the premise big data world. And now what's happening is that world is transitioning to the cloud. And so we're transitioning with that. One of the things that we've released so companies can track our progress is what percentage of our new ARR is coming from cloud.
Right.
And when we first showed that in Q3 last year, it was 14%. And I'd say the market gave it kind of a collective yawn, saying, well, that's not a very big number. And we said, watch this space, because at 14% turned to 25%, turned to 36%. And most recently in Q2, it was 43%. Because that business for us is growing well over 100%. And that really is demonstrating that the opportunity that we have as we become a 100% cloud player. We'll be over 50% cloud in terms of new ARR by the end of this year.
Yeah, but and people should know at home that once they do cross that threshold, people will start redoing their models and realize that you're going to be a much more lucrative and recurring business, much steadier. Now, you do have this great slide in your deck where you talk about how some companies are unscalable, ungoverned, and incomplete, and other companies are expensive, slow, and restrictive. The expensive one, we've got Dell, we have SAP. The unscalable, we've got companies like Azure, AWS, Glue. Now, some of these companies you actually work with. But they're cumbersome versus what your proposition is?
Well, I wouldn't really characterize Azure as cumbersome in any way.
Okay.
What we're really trying to say is that for complex enterprise requirements, there are only a couple of companies that can solve those kind of solutions. And if you're a Domino's and you have thousands of franchisees in every country around the world, and you need to pull data from all those systems, blend it together, clean it up, there's only a few companies in the world that can solve those problems. That's what we can do. And you're not going to get it from, one of the cloud companies as one of the built-in solutions. Now, the cloud companies are our partners. And so just to be clear, we do a lot of business with Azure. We do a lot of business with Amazon. We do a lot of business with Google. But in terms of solving those complex data problems, they're not one of the companies that are going to help you solve that. That's where we have such a great partnership with them.
Well, that's because I figured that they would come to you. If someone needed, someone went to them and said, listen, we're having a problem with the data, they would call Talend. Say, listen, help this guy.
Exactly. And that's why it's such a win-win, because when we solve those data problems for them, it drives more compute and more consumption on the cloud. And so that's a win-win, and they actively look for helping, bringing us in to help them solve those problems.
Well, I'm so glad we came to you before you get to 75%, 80%, because what happens then is stock doubles. I've seen it too many times. So we're hitting you at a very good time. Mike Tuchen, CEO of Talend, right at the cusp of when you have to own the stock. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Jim.
Mad Money's back after the break. Booyah! Jim Cramer here from Mad Money. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube. Click here to subscribe and get the jump on my exclusives with CEOs, plus market news, investing advice, and a whole lot more.